Throughout the discourse, please continue in your meditation, please continue in your resonance. If you feel the mind wandering, don't worry, let the mind wander, let the mind do what it does, and then once you're conscious of it, bring it back into the resonance again, bring it back into your meditation again. Today, I would like to pick up from where we left last week. James Singh done a beautiful talk on suffering and how we can cut through this material suffering through Nam. And today I wanted to spend a little bit more time talking about the causes of that suffering and how we can overcome it. The Gurbani refers to this as the Tinetap, which translates as the three fevers. But in order to examine this, we need to understand why we suffer. What are the causes of our suffering and how we can alleviate it? The thing is, we were never meant to suffer. It was not the divine's plan for us to suffer. We were never meant to experience troubles. We were never meant to experience pains. We were simply meant to understand and experience what it means to be divine, what it means to feel to be reunited with the divine. That was the point of separation from the divine, so we can understand who and what we really are. We were meant to reunite with our origin. As the Gurbani says, "Eo keh nanak man tu jot swarup hai, apna mool pachan." Recognize your origin, recognize where you've come from. That is your purpose. That is your soul's purpose. But instead, we've forgotten our purpose and we live in the illusion. We live in the illusion of Maya. And we continually stay separated from the divine. We make choices that take us away from the divine. And that becomes the cause of our suffering. It's because of this that Buddha says that all life is suffering. The purpose of life is suffering. It's because of this that Guru Nanak says that suffering is caused by our self-centeredness, by our ego, and this suffering has plagued the entire world, and no one has escaped from it. Jo jo disa so so rogi, rog rahat mera sat gur jogi. Wherever I look, Guru Nanak says, I see people who are diseased. Jo jo disa, rog rahat mera sat gur jogi. And the only one who's without disease is the divine, the one who unites us with themselves. Totally engulfed by this Maya existence, by this physical existence, we're then subjected to these countless pains. Life is really hard. Life is tough. And we try to find many different ways to overcome those pains. And that just leads to further heartache. Our hurt expectations, our negative experiences, these act like sharp daggers in our heart. They pierce our heart. Kaniyo tiki walu niki et marg jana. Continuous, countless daggers pierce us daily. We focus on our bodies. We experience these highs and lows. This is the chronic disease of Maya. This is the chronic disease that affects us all. And suffering this disease, we are then stripped of any immunity, any divine immunity that we could have, that will protect us from these illnesses, from these diseases. The root cause of all our pain, the root cause of all our suffering is the separation from the divine. And it's our attachment to the illusion, the attachment to Maya. When the divine is near us, we want nothing else but the divine. But where the divine is not present in our reality, there's no greater pain. There's no greater pain. The material suffering that we experience, the material suffering rooted in the Maya, can be split into three different forms, which the Gurbani has referred to as the teen etap, the three fevers. Traudarsi teen etap sansar. The world is in fever with these three qualities. And it's these continued sufferings that keep us drowned in this existence and prevent us from rising in our consciousness. What are these three fevers? These are known as the Adi, Vyadi, and Upadi. Adi is the first fever, and that is the fever that arises from within us. The fever of the mind, the stress and mental illnesses that we have. The Vyadi is the fever that arises from this physical body. And thirdly, the Upadi. This is the fever that arises, the temperatures that arise from our doubts and our delusions, our confusion. Anyone living in this world is not free from the Adi, Vyadi, or Upadi. At different points in our life, we'll experience any forms of the Adi, Vyadi, or Upadi, depending on what form of Maya consumes us more, i.e. the Rajo, Tamo, Sato guns. If we have time, we'll explore this a bit more. But depending what's more dominant in us, whether we have a more of a lazy existence, whether we have an existence of craving, or whether we have an existence of spirituality, where the ego still affects us, we will experience the Adi, Vyadi, and Upadi in various different degrees, and no one's free from this. As Satguruji says, Mitra Pulatra Kalatra Surid Teen Tap Jalant. Our friends, our children, everyone we see are burning with these three fevers. We are not alone. If we look around, every single home, every single house, meaning every single body, is burning with the same fire of Maya. Our friends, our families, everyone is burning in this same Maya. So let us explore this further. The first is the Adi, the fever of the inside, the mind. Whatever we think, whatever thought we generate becomes our destiny and our fate. We've heard that thought is creative. Our mind is covered by whatever we cover it with. Whatever thought blanket we cover it with becomes its reality. What we focus on becomes us. Jaisa seva, taisa hoye. Whatever we serve becomes our reality. The mind is a storehouse of all emotions, all thoughts, all feelings. It just stores it and stores it and stores it. It doesn't go anywhere. Therefore, the Gurus have told us that doesn't matter what we think, whether we voice it or not, but whatever we think, whatever emotion we have, is not lost anywhere. It's recorded in our mind. And these statements, these judgments that we make become our reality. The pains of the body, they go when the body goes. When someone dies and they've suffered a lot of pain in their life, we often say, we're glad that they've gone. At least they're not suffering now. But realize this, The pains of the body have gone, but the pains of the mind, that thought blanket travels around with us to the next body and the next, even after death. They do not disappear because they travel with our soul. All the little tricks we play, all the negativity we hold on to, the indulgences we hold on to, the slandering that we engage in, these are the fevers of the mind. And whatever we place in that mind will become our outcome. When someone's really hurt us deeply, it's our mind that suffers. We then continue to be hurt by reliving that experience. And the cause of that problem is the mind itself, the mind alone. This is why the gurus have told us to let go of that pride. Let go of the pride of the mind. Let go of these emotions one at a time. Do not be a victim to your own emotions. If we do not let things go, those people that have hurt us, if we do not let them go, then we're allowing them to attack us again and again and again and again, and we're doing it to ourselves. The most liberating factor could be when we actually learn to let it go ourselves. This is the fever of the mind. Then we come to the fever of the body, the Vyadhi. You see, as long as there's birth, there is pain. The physical body, by default, will attract all sorts of pains and suffering. Destined to die, we come into this world. And unless we can move beyond this physical existence, this physical plane, we will continue in this cycle of births and deaths. Maran lekhaye mandal mein aaye. Before we've even come into this world, that death date's written. Let's look at our lives, for example. Our life is full of change. From birth to youth, from youth to the middle age, from middle age to disease, and then that disease to death. And in each stage, we're taught a load of lies. When we're born, we're paraded around like we belong to someone. Our mother and father carry us around and say, this is my son, this is my daughter. That's the first lie. We don't belong to anyone but the divine. The divine has brought us into this world, and the divine will take us back. As soon as we take those first breaths into this world, the connection that we had to the divine is broken. And we as a human race then spend so much time trying to teach these children the ways of the world and not the ways of the divine. We then bring these children up in their Maya existence. From that place of purity, they go from a place to a place of delusion. And they take this through the rest of their life. Take our youth, for example. How much emphasis have we placed on our youth? How much importance have we placed on our youth? In our youth, where was the fear of death? In our youth, we're invincible. And in our youth, all sorts of obstacles are thrown in our way. The need to study hard, the need to work hard, the need to accumulate as much wealth as we can, the need to then get our houses, our cars, the need to invest. We keep ourselves so busy in this rat race, hoping for a better life. We don't realize this is a false economy. then we're totally plundered by our sense organs. We run around in madness trying to satisfy the senses, the desires of our body, the urges of our body. How much are we plagued by our frustrations and our angers? Know this, the spiritualists have told us that in just one action, in one fit of anger, we can lose any bit of awareness we've developed in the divine, just in one argument. Anything that we developed can just be burnt away in a second. What amazes us, and what amazes me really, is how we get attached to these negative traits. We become so familiar with them that we don't want to let them go. I once met a person who got offended by the idea when I said he's managing to control his anger now. And then in fact, he's doing better than other people. To him, he was really proud of his anger. Amazing. Another person said in the same conversation that he can't digest his food unless he takes his frustrations out on someone. So if something's plaguing him, if something's annoying him, he has to have it out with that person before he can do anything. And these are the people who walk around in the costume of spiritualists. We look the part, we play the part, but internally our mind is in chaos. These are the frustrations, these are the fevers of the mind that we take around with us. And until we're conscious of these things, we won't do anything about it. We're but one, and these are many attacking us, and we're not conscious of this. But to the spiritualists, the needs of the body are like a dog that continuously barks and barks and barks and barks, and this is the pain it cannot endure. These are the pain, that barking pain that it cannot stand. So we have a bit of a predicament here. We have a bit of a problem. The greater effort we put into this world, the greater effort we put into satisfying this body and its transitory pleasures, the greater the pain we will experience. We've all seen the moth who's so attached to that flame and doesn't realize that that very flame was going to burn it. That flame that it's craved is going to destroy its body. In the same way, we are burnt by the very sense organs that we chase after. These are the causes of our pain. Baba Jaswant Singh Ji would also say, have you ever noticed how a spider creates its web and then gets trapped in it? We live in a fabricated existence, and this becomes the source and the cause of our pain. And in doing so, we totally forget our purpose in this world. And then we run out of time. As Satguruji says, Nano neer beh tan khina pe kes dudwani rudo kant sabad nahi uchra ab kya kare prani. Tears well up in my eyes. My body has become too weak to do anything. My hair has become milky white. My throat is tight. I have no strength to speak. What am I meant to do now? In old age or in illness, we may only get lucky enough to use as much energy just to stay alive. How much energy is taken up in old age just to stay alive? Just to do the basic things, to eat, basic hygiene will take up all your energy in the day. This is why the divine has actually called old age a disease in itself. In this disease of old age, how do you think you're going to meditate? We often think that we're going to leave it till later on. In fact, Meditation, in some respects, is a young person's game. Remembering the divine is a young person's game, because without their health, without those basic needs, we won't be able to put our attention on the divine. Of course, the divine can bless us at any time, at any point, whenever we can start our meditation, whenever we can start our remembering of the divine, whenever we can start that service, that is a blessed moment. If we truly want to optimize our meditation, then the time is now, whenever, and especially in youth. So it's a false economy. This the youth that we have, we spend our time teaching the youth to get ahead in the world, but really we need to be teaching the youth to get ahead in the divine race, not the rat race. We go through all of life thinking that we have picked up life experiences. Instead, we picked up a load of negative emotions, a load of baggage, and these are the things that will weigh us down in our next life. Let us not lose this opportunity now, the here and now. As our Guru tells us, Jab lag jara rog nahi aaya, jab lag kaal grasi nahi kaya, jab lag bikal pai nahi bani, pajle re man sarg pani. Just as the disease of old age has not come to haunt you, and just as death has not seized your body, and as long as you have voice and you've not lost your power, meditate and vibrate on the divine. This is your time. Take this opportunity whilst you still can, and wherever you can. I was following a car once, and a bumper sticker on the back caught my attention, and it said, heading in the wrong direction, God allows U-turns. Let's take that U-turn in our life so we can head back home, our true home. These are the fevers of the body. We now come to the fevers of doubt. The fevers of the doubt, upadhi, are also called param, or duality. And this is the state of confusion that Maya creates. This is the state of confusion caused by living in two worlds and serving two masters. These two masters are opposites of one another. Thing is, we can either live in the world or we can live for the divine, but we can't do both. We'll actually fail in both. Our ego is the exact opposite of our divine experience. So only the ego can live, or the divine will live. There isn't a space for both. The spiritualists explain you can't fit two swords in one sheath. In the same way, we either live for the divine or we live for the world, but we can't do both. The upadhi are the pains caused by these negative experiences that we have, the negative people we meet, the society we keep. And this creates this doubt, this mental delusion. In the upadhi, whatever we think is real is in fact false. And because of this, we're so afraid of treading the path, because we're treading on something that we just completely know nothing of. We so believe that everything that's false is real, that if we give ourselves a different opinion, we can't accept it. Madhave kya kahiye param aisa, jaisa maniye hoye na taisa. What can I say about my doubts? What I thought was real is not. So how do I have the courage to actually even tread on this path? It's for this reason, it's in this state of upadhi that we question the divine. In order to study medicine, we've had to do a number of years of practice, a number of years of study, just to study to get to the basics of medicine. Same with an engineer, same with a lawyer, same with the teacher. A number of years, a lot of effort has had to go into. But in the state of the divine, the state of the soul, to understand the soul and our soul purpose, we've been going for centuries, we've been going for years, we've been going for many life forms, and we've not got anywhere. That's because we're not willing to take that plunge, to take that change, to actually question whether actually everything we thought was true, is it true? Or could it be false? And it's because of these doubts of the mind that we question the divine. We look into this world for the divine. We look at creation for the divine. Some run to the caves, some run to the forests. Some look at nature around them and worship wherever they see. Others do not worship at all. In their confusion, they cannot accept that something else, some other energy supports the universe. They only rely on their limited human experience. But do they ever question that they're still not happy? We made universities for our knowledge. We made hospitals to cure our physical needs. But our mental needs, our soul needs are still a mystery. And if we haven't in all these centuries been able to find a cure for it, then really we must understand it doesn't exist in this world. We have to look beyond. And to these people that question, even if the divine manifested right in front of them, even if the divine introduced themselves and said, I'm the divine, they will create 100 arguments to dismiss their experience. Because this is what Maya does, it creates these doubts. The divine is not a theory. The divine is a reality. It's the constant in the universe, this one vibration and energy that binds us all together. Don't be in doubt. Don't be in doubt. The Gurus have told us, Sab kich kar mein bar nahi, bar tole so param pulahi, gur prasadi jini antar paya, so antar bar suhella jiyo. Don't look beyond, because everything's within you. The divine's sitting right within you. But when we look outside, when we look externally, that's where we will find these doubts. That's where we'll get into that confusion. That's where we'll start saying my way, your way. That's where we're saying this is right and that's wrong. That's when we'll start judging people. That's where we will start doing all these random practices that won't take us anywhere nearer to the divine. That's where we will hear our gossips. That's where we will hear our slander. That's where we will take on all these negative impressions that will affect our soul. And we will end up in that delusion. But when the Guru blesses us, when through the blessings of your divine scriptures, your teachers, you start traveling within, you start finding the divine within. When we adopt our meditation practice and we come into that one point in space and move within, then at that point, wherever is inside, we also see outside. Gur prasadi jini antar paya, so antar bar suhella jiyo. At that point, the internal and the external is in peace. Because we know and we realize we've come into that divine space, that wherever we are, the divine is there. We are divine, we're a part of the divine, everything we see is the divine. The root cause of all our doubts is born from that ego. And the fact that we're trying to please two worlds. We're trying to live in two worlds. Firstly, this doubt, this ignorance, this duality actually takes away any of our spiritual intelligence. And then we respond to these doubts, this delusion, with even more doubts. We'll create even more questions. How many times have we stopped ourselves from actually going into spiritual practice? We start questioning it before actually doing it. Sometimes you just got to take the plunge. For Sikhs, the countless questions that we have, people will say, ask many different questions about should they take initiation, called Amrit, when they should take Amrit, what do they need to do to take Amrit, can I do this, can I do that, can I do this? And they'll make 101 reasons about why they can't do it. Or they will go in this decision-making thing. They will go into this spiral of one doubt after the other, after the other, after the other. And in the end, all they're doing is pushing that experience away. And this is the thing about the thoughts being creative. As soon as we shut the door to any idea of the divine, you've created, you've erected that barrier, you've let Maya win. If we ask for the divine, for the gift of Naam, if we ask the divine to be present with them, then when the opportunity comes to worship them, we close that door. Other things seem to take more priority. And then those opportunities very rarely come back again, because that's the decision that we've taken, the decision we've made. So from our duality, from our ignorance, we then put so much energy into trying to convince ourselves that something isn't possible, instead of just accepting it, or taking the plunge, or even just saying, you know what, I don't understand at the moment, but maybe the divine, please bless me with that understanding so I do understand in the future. And this influence of doubts is so contagious that it destroys our ability to see. It destroys our ability to find this purpose in life. And because of this, parme ave, parme jai, we come in these doubts and we go in these doubts. I narrated this story just not too long ago. But there was an astronaut and a brain surgeon having a conversation with each other. And the astronaut turned to the brain surgeon and said, I've studied the expanse of space. I've been in a shuttle. I've been into space. I've looked around everywhere. And to this day, I've never found any evidence of the divine, of God. I've not found God. I've not seen God. I've not seen the divine. And the brain surgeon turned to the astronaut and said, that's interesting. Because I'm a brain surgeon. I've operated on hundreds of brains. I've cured many different diseases, but I've opened up many different brains. And to this day, I've not once seen a thought. I've not once seen a thought. And like I said, if the divine comes in front of people with doubts, even then we'll create 101 different reasons about why they can't be the divine, or why it can't be what we're experiencing. If we experience a divine moment, we'll convince ourselves it's something else. It is why when we do have spiritual experiences, the spiritualists advise actually keep it to yourself. Don't say it to anybody else, because it's for you to savor. And the moment you say that experience to someone else will get into that place of doubt. Because if the divine doesn't reveal themselves in the way that you've experienced it, they will go into doubt. But it's for you to savor within yourself. And the moment then you express it externally, then the Maya gets hold of you, because then the ego gets hold of you. And then you don't go deeper, because all you've been given is a glimpse. It's for you to travel further. And these then creates further doubts. So what is the cure? If we look at an ostrich, that ostrich, when it finds immediate danger, it sticks its head in the sand. And it hopes that will save its life. In the same way, the Gurbani says, we're just like that ostrich. We stick our head in the consciousness and sand of the three fevers, because we're familiar with it. And we hope that in our ignorance, that this will liberate us one day. We feel that we'll be able to find all the answers through this world. Don't bury yourself in the quicksand of Maya. Our material knowledge, our worldly cleverness, all those speculations that we make, all that logic that we think we have, will not get rid of our fevers. It will not give us that mental clarity that we're searching for. It will not give us that peace of mind. There's something to say about suffering, though. In the end, our suffering will be our cure. It's only when we cannot endure these pains anymore, when we totally had enough of this Maya pain, this Maya existence, that we rise above it and search for the divine. And until we've come on this path, until we have awakened that this life is suffering, and until we move on that spiritual path, then in argument, we've not suffered enough. Because that suffering will be our cure. And this is what the Gurbani refers to as vichar. It means to evaluate the cause of our problems, to evaluate the steps that we take. And from here, we move into vivek. Vivek is where we move away from those thoughts and those actions that produce us pains. We develop such a mind, a discriminating mind. Discriminating in the sense of those emotions we want to bring to us and those emotions we want to cast away. We will discriminate continuously against anything that will take away our peace. But underpinning the vichar, underpinning the vivek, is the power of faith and prayer. As the Guru says, Tine taap nivaranhara dukhanta sukras taako bign na ko laga jaki prabh aaga ardas. The one Lord, the one divine removes our three fevers. The divine is the destroyer of our pain. The divine is a storehouse of peace. And no obstacles block the way of the seeker who prays to the divine. The answer is innocent prayer. Pour your heart out to the divine. Don't think that any prayer goes unanswered. It doesn't. Because anything we manifest into the universe, anything we manifest travels with our soul and comes into action. No prayer goes unanswered. The divine is the knower of each and every heart. When we share our problems with the divine, who else is going to be there for us? As the Bible says, before we ask, so shall we receive. Before we even ask for, the divine knows what we need. That prayer will put change in motion. That prayer will move mountains. That faith will remove our pains. Then when the divine gives you that opportunity to remember them, to serve them, to be in their embrace, take it with open arms. When the divine gives you that opportunity to connect with them, take it, don't question it. Don't let that ego come into the equation. If the divine's telling you to join them even in initiation, don't question it. You're not a part of that process. Give yourself to the divine will take care of everything else. Do not shy away from that experience. Do not delay, because this will be our cure. And with these words, I beg forgiveness. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.